Well, this is a busy time of year with many deserving concerns warranting proclamations, and we have 3 of them tonight. The first is Veterans Day proclamation. Whereas November 11th is the anniversary of the armistice signed by the Allies and the Germans in 1918, which ended World War I after 4 years of conflict. And whereas President Woodrow Wilson issued the first Armistice Day proclamation in November of 1919 and set the tone for future observances by observing that, quote, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nation." And whereas the name was changed from Armistice Day to Veterans Day by an act of Congress in 1954, when then President Eisenhower called on citizens to observe the day in honor of all who had served in America's wars through the years. And whereas our nation is indebted to the servicemen and women who have made great sacrifices, endured long absences from loved ones, and suffered injury or death to protect our homes and families. And whereas our community is indebted to members of the 126th Engineer Company for their service and who, along with their loved ones, made substantial sacrifices on behalf of our nation. And whereas, out of sensitivity to the wishes of those military personnel and their families, we are waiting until they tell us the time is right to celebrate their safe return, join them in grieving their company's losses, and formally commemorate their selflessness. And whereas Veterans Day is an opportunity to honor our nation's veterans for their sacrifices, now therefore I, Nancy Cheney, Mayor for the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2011 as Veterans Day in the City of Moscow, and I urge all citizens to reflect upon the sacrifices made by America's military personnel to preserve and promote enduring peace around the world. Our next proclamation is for Nonprofit Week, and I know we have a number of people here representing some of the nonprofit organizations in our community, and I wonder if you would just stand to be recognized so we can say thank you. Somebody here representing nonprofits tonight? Look at that group. That's wonderful. Thank you. We so often recognize the volunteerism in the City of Moscow, and our broader community also has similar volunteer activities and the service of nonprofit organizations, which doesn't mean they don't have paid positions, but it means they're serving a need that's really particular to the community. And it's my honor and privilege to read a proclamation to recognize that. Whereas nonprofit organizations help build and sustain healthy communities by filling needs in areas such as health, recreation, education, arts, the environment, and social services. And whereas the thousands of nonprofit organizations contribute to Idaho's economy by providing jobs, goods, and services with expenditures totaling more than $3.5 billion annually. And whereas the nonprofit sector works with private enterprise and governmental organizations to improve circumstances in our state and around the world. And whereas volunteers from Idaho generously provide opportunities for leadership, civic engagement, community building, and advocacy. And whereas the nonprofit sector manages charitable dollars responsibly to accomplish a wide range of worthwhile goals. And whereas the nonprofit sector in Idaho has a proud history of service, innovation, social change, and stepping up to challenges. And whereas the accomplishments of the nonprofit sector deserve acknowledgement, affirmation, and celebration. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Cheney, Mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim November 13th through 19th, 2011 as Idaho Nonprofit Week in Moscow, and I urge everyone to recognize and support nonprofit organizations, including those in our community. I recognize that naming them would be impossible, and certainly I would inadvertently leave someone out. So you know who you are, who are here tonight, and your services are multiplied many times over in our community. Someone had asked me to do a signing tonight. Is that person here this evening? or to receive the proclamation? Would someone like to do that on behalf of the nonprofits? If not, we'll just make sure. Pardon me?
We have United Way.
United Way can certainly come on up and maybe step up to the lectern here. And well, as a matter of fact, why don't you just come on up in turn and just say who you're here representing? Everybody who stood up for the nonprofits, come on over to that microphone and just say who you are and what organization you represent. Tom,
Don't be shy.
you too.
You're on national television. So.
I'm Krisha Bunny. I'm with the United Way.
I'm Barb Mahoney, and I'm with Gritman Medical Center.
I'm Brenda Salzer, and I'm with CareNet of the Palouse.
Christine Cavanaugh with the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center.
Okay.
Tom LaPointe with My Own Home.
Jeremiah Paparazzo with Boy Scouts of America.
And his father, Josh Paparazzo, also with Boy Scouts of America.
All right.
And I'm Donna Mills with Rural Roots.
Well, if you would all stay standing, we'd love to get a group photo, and let me hand this. We'll hand this proclamation to United Way, but we certainly have the public record where any of you who would like a copy to. Here. Here we are. Shoes this up there. How about that? There you are. All right. Thank you all. We applaud you. For your folders, or share it with United Way over there. Yeah, pass it around, and we'll have one posted online as well. Okay. And last but not least, we have Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. Whereas, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, approximately 770,000 people in the United States are homeless. And whereas, according to the Department of Education, an estimated 700,000 children go to bed hungry across our nation on any given night. And whereas people may be hungry and homeless because of a shortage of affordable housing, lack of insurance in health care crises, job loss in a down economy, mental illness or substance disuse disorders, reduced funding for social services, inadequate education to meet competitive employment criteria, etc. And whereas, according to federal poverty measures, a living wage is that which allows families to meet basic needs, including food, housing, clothing, utilities, health care, child care, taxes, personal items, savings, and transportation without public assistance, and provides some ability to deal with emergencies and to plan ahead. And whereas, according to the 2010 Job Gap study by the Alliance for a Just Society, Idaho's living wage for a single adult is $14.25 per hour, and for a single adult with 2 children is $26.44 per hour, and whereas the state and federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. And whereas for the past several years, the National Coalition for the Homeless and National Student Campaign Against Hunger and Homelessness have sponsored National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week to raise awareness, encourage support for service providers, and afford opportunities for community service. And whereas the theme of National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week 2011 is Bringing America Home, and whereas a local coalition of organizations, agencies, and individuals is committed to working together with the public to meet the variety of needs of people living in poverty on the Palouse. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Cheney, Mayor for the City of Moscow, Idaho, do hereby proclaim November 12 through 20, 2011, as Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week in the City of Moscow, and I encourage everyone to help fellow citizens to the extent they are able to address the needs for food, housing, and other basic services, not just during the holiday seasons, but throughout the year. So thank you for your involvement in that. We've had just a tremendous and heartwarming response to the series of meetings that have been held in this area dealing with hunger, homelessness, poverty. And so I applaud all of you who are engaged in those efforts to help our fellow citizens.